May we unfold the meaning of the Tathagata's truth. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. It's good to see everyone here this morning. What I've been doing the past several talks, with some gaps in there, but basically focusing on this question of how do we improve our Zazen. So that's a kind of a, I say that with some reluctance to say that we can improve our Zazen, but I think we can, doing certain things. There's certain things we can do personally that can help us to improve. And so far I've been talking about mainly physical things like exercise and diet and chant. The last time I think was about chanting and things like that. This time I want to move into the realm of relationship in terms of family and harmony, finding harmony in the family. So this moves us in a kind of a different direction of, we tend to, when we think about Zazen in particular, seated meditation, we're thinking about, well, how do I do it? And the question that comes up for most people is, well, I must do, what can I do to improve it? Has to do with my own physical body. That's why I mentioned yoga too. And all of those things are important for sure. But we don't often think of that in terms of our familial relationships. And I'm not speaking as an expert here on finding harmony in the family, but I'm just raising it as something that we need to pay attention to, because if those relationships in our family are going well, our Zazen actually will go well too. And we come we come to a tradition. Zen is a tradition of leaving the family. That's how the Buddha dealt with his issues, right? He left home. And so this is an interesting thing that I think that most of us are grappling with. Most of us are not home leavers, and I myself, I have a family that I'm raising. So this question comes up for me. How do we integrate our practice with our family? How do we, or maybe not that, but how do we harmonize with our family? So that's kind of what I want to just bring up. I want to ask some questions to help stimulate discussion just at the start, and then offer a couple of remarks and then open it up for discussion. All right, that's kind of my plan for this morning. So some questions. And no, we can, whether you have children or not have children, we all have parents. Maybe they're still here, maybe they're not. But in either case, doesn't matter, because we are so conditioned by our family, our parents especially. And I was sharing with Shinkyu in the intro to Zen yesterday how much I didn't realize it, how much my mother influences me and the way that I see the world. And that really became apparent to me with my first child, and the things that were going on. And all of a sudden, it was like my mother was right in my face. Not literally, but almost literally. Like I was seeing through her eyes, I was hearing with her ears, I was speaking with her tongue on as far as what to do with this, with my newborn son. Like, oh, that's it. And I couldn't, and thanks to the practice, I can see, oh, this is my mother's response to these situations. This is probably how she dealt with me when I was growing up in some way, and then I've forgotten, but my body remembered. So we can't, even if our parents are not physically present, they're still in us. So in Zen, we talk about two kinds of home leaving. There's the home leaving with the body, right? physically, you become a home leaver. That's what being a priest is also called. It's not actually being a priest. It's called, the ceremony is called Shukkei Tokudo, home leaving ceremony. Shukkei means to leave home. So there's leaving with the body, but then there's also leaving home with the mind. And I think that's something that any of us can, and actually really, that's where the real practice is, because even if you leave home with the body, you don't necessarily leave home with the mind. Just like my mom was right there in my face, for better or for worse. So I think I guess the thing that I want to circle around is how much the family either cultivates in us a sense of belonging to the big world around us, or doesn't cultivate that. You know, it's what do you call spectrum? Yeah. See, on the one end, it's like this. Okay, they're really working at it. On the other hand, they're not doing anything. But somewhere in between. But this, I think, the sense of cultivating a sense of belonging is the potential role of the family. And I think it's the traditional role of the family, as well as the spiritual community, is this, that foster a sense of belonging to the world. So the questions I'm asking is that how can, now if you don't have children, this might be a different kind of question, but how can you encourage your children to ask questions and reflect on their own existence and place in the universe, right? Or you could, if you don't have kids, maybe ask that for yourself. How do you feel about your own existence? Where does your sense of belonging come from? What conversations about the mysteries of life and the cosmos can you ask that may spark curiosity and awe? That's just not just for children, but maybe your parents. It's tricky with parents because it's a different kind of role, but still the question I think is important to consider. How do we talk about awe, like the awesomeness of being alive within a family context? Or how can you create a safe space to explore thoughts and feelings about belonging and existence? How can you create that safe space so that there's the questions can come up? Or this last one, what stories or metaphors can you use to convey the vastness and interconnectedness of the universe to your family or within your family? So anyways, those are some possible questions to bring up. I'd love to hear what people have to say, but let me share two stories. The first is one that my teacher shared with me, and whether it's really happened or not, I'm not sure, but she's told me this story. When I first came to meditation, well, let me back up a second and just say, for me, coming to Zazen, when I first came to Zazen, I realized it's okay to sit in silence. I was completely captivated by that because I didn't come from a family that really respected silence at all. We're very loud, and I suspect that's a lot for many of us. We come here because there's just so much. If it's not the verbal, auditory stuff that really kind of overstimulates us, maybe even just our mind. But in any case, for me, it was really a profound thing to see that there's a space for me to sit in silence. So when I first met my teacher, I was just so grateful that I could sit and nobody was going to say anything to me. Nobody was going to tell me what to do. Well, my teacher did say some things. She did share, like, this is how you sit. And then she shared some instructions on, just orientation. And one of the things she shared was this story. She said that an American went to a Zen temple, in Japan to practice, and he stayed there for about 3 months. And he really liked the practice. He'd been there for a while then, and he woke up early in the morning, sat Zazen, cleaned the temple, helped clean the temple, worked with all the monks, chanted with the monks, ate with the monks, cooked, gardened, all those things. And he said at the end of his 3 month stay, he said, he went to the head monk and he asked the head monk, how do you become a member of this organization? And the head monk took his hand and scratched his head on the other side, indicating confusion. How do you become a member? And the head monk responded, how does a cloud become a member of the sky? And how does a cloud become a member of the sky? In other words, it's your birthright. We're not members of a particular, that's a small kind of membership. Right? We have members here. That's okay. I don't want to put that down at all. But the insight that we're aiming for is that we belong because we're here. We have existence. That's the foundational membership in the universe. We belong because we are here. We're alive. If you're here, you belong. That's simple. It's that simple. And I don't just mean here in this building. I mean anywhere you go. That sense of belonging. And I think that in a family, that's what we want to cultivate, is that sense of belonging. But oftentimes a family doesn't do that. It's like you have to do something in particular in order to, make you feel worthy of their love. That might be for some people. So just something to think about. What is it that helps us to feel a sense of belonging, and how can we communicate that with our loved ones, that they belong, that they're, and I'm not an expert at this at all. I'm just kind of thinking about my own experiences in family life and how to work this out. But I feel like that sense of belonging is really important. The second story is maybe one that you've heard before. Some of you have been here, who have been around, may have heard this before. And this is the story of Bodhidharma. So when Zen moves from India to China, it goes that there was this monk named Bodhidharma who was an Indian monk, and in his old age, and he's in his 60s, his teacher tells him, go to China and spread the Dharma there. So what does he do? He goes and sits in a cave. It's not a good place for spreading the Dharma. But somehow he got a reputation for sitting in a cave. And there was an emperor. The emperor at the time, Emperor Wu, he was a devout Buddhist. So Buddhism had already been in China before Bodhidharma entered. Emperor Wu was putting money towards erecting temples. He was helping monks and nuns to ordain and all this. And he had been doing a lot, putting a lot of his energy and time into Buddhism. And he'd heard about this monk, Bodhidharma, that came from India, and being the emperor, wielding a lot of power, he wanted to see the monk and ask him some questions about the Dharma. So Bodhidharma agrees to meet with him, and Emperor Wu asks him, can you tell me what's the highest meaning of the Noble Truths? And Bodhidharma says, empty. There's nothing holy about them. That's a really profound thing to say about a religion. There's nothing holy. You'd think the exact opposite. He wanted to get something big from Bodhidharma, and he just gets the rug pulled out from underneath him. And then the second question he asks him is, well, first of all, he's wondering, do I got the right guy here? Is this the person that I really requested? Because he doesn't seem to know anything. He didn't give me the answer I was looking for. So he comes out, who is it that's standing here before me? And he throws another one at him. He says, I don't know. That's another really powerful response to an emperor. And this ability to say, that ability to say, I don't know who I am. Well, maybe none of us will ever be in the position of Bodhidharma. We're probably not going to be in front of the president and him asking us a really deep spiritual question. And then him retorting, well, who are you? And you say, we're probably not going to be in that situation. But we are in that situation anyways, in our life all the time, because we're constantly trying to make a name for ourselves in some form through fame and gain. Those are the two ones that Dogen always brought up, as fame and gain, that we want to make. We're all caught by it to some degree. And to some degree, we need to have some kind of recognition for what we do. We desire stuff. There's nothing wrong with those things. I don't want to shame. I'm not bringing any shame there. But I think the problem comes in, at least for me, what I noticed in myself, and I think it may be true for at least some of you, is the pushing on our children of making a name for yourself at the expense of a sense of really cultivating that sense of belonging. Right? So Bodhidharma had so much confidence in himself that he could say to an emperor, I don't know who I am. That required a tremendous amount of self-confidence to be able to say that, but to also know it about himself. Like, yeah, I'm Bodhidharma, I come from India, but I don't really know who I am. Whereas what we see often in our culture is this vying for position and power. So this is an opposite orientation, what we call being nobody, going nowhere, right? So that's the other half of the equation. It's the only way you can be somebody and go somewhere is if you're okay with being nobody and going nowhere. And that's what just turned my world upside down when my teacher was telling me this. Like, being nobody, going nowhere? That was the opposite message that I was getting from my family, from my society, from my schooling. It's like everybody's telling me I got to be somebody and I got to go somewhere, and that makes me belong. But Zen is saying our belonging comes from the fact of our existence. And when we sit Zazen, we're just affirming that. And we belong because we're here, because we're breathing. And the only thing that takes that away is death. The universe gives it to us, and the universe takes it away. But even that, we're still part of this great universe, even through death. Right? Our karma still exists, and even materially, we're still here. So those are just some initial thoughts on that, and I want to open this up to hear from you guys, just to have I have a limited experience around this sense of how do we cultivate harmony in the family. I just wanted to give some introductory thoughts on it and open up for your thoughts on this and bring forth your wisdom. Thank you.
I could start.
Yeah, please.
Break that silence.